Hello, hello. Should be working now. Cece doesn't always talk. She's shy. Yeah, I'm super shy. I think it's all set now. Should be fine. I normally play music, but it hasn't been working out great. So if they try and copyright strike me for talking, that would be fun. But it ain't gonna happen. See. All right, great. Let me get the book pulled up on my phone as well. So we went through chapter 1 and chapter 2 already. I don't know. I think we're at chapter 3. Here's a link to the book if you want to read along with me. So this is fitting up the bottom rocks, arches, and caves, the water artificial seawater, marine salts, management of artificial water, caution to the uninitiated, filtering. Chapter 3, fitting up. Rock work claims the first consideration when we proceed to fit up and furnish a tank. For a freshwater aquarium, I do not recommend rock work of any kind. And in the case of a vase, rock work is positively dangerous. From its weight, and unless very skillfully managed, it will be ugly rather than ornamental. In the marine tank, a few pieces of rock add to the beauty of the scene and the comfort of the creatures. In fitting rock work, some amount of taste and judgment must be brought into exercise. Shells and filigree work are largely used by some folks, but they belong properly to the child's aquarium. They suggest dolls and battledores, some rough fragments of any kind of non-metallic stone may be built up into a dark arch or piled up after the fashion of a cromlech. One flat piece resting on two or three vertical pieces so as to form a rude table-like structure. These may be fixed firmly in the places they are intended to occupy by the means of Roman or Portland cement, which can be purchased at any building yard. The cement should be made into a stiff paste and worked into the firm form required. Indeed, the rock work may be wholly composed of such cement, especially if it is to have the form of an arch. The most important matter in the construction of rock work is to give it a natural, rugged appearance, and to avoid loading the tank with superfluous weight. I have seen large shells and branches of coral in freshwater tanks, and always thought the spectacle disgraceful to the owner. In the marine tank, such things are proper enough. Wherever it is done should be made secure, the pieces of stone well embedded in the cement, and the whole firmly united. The tank must be well seasoned to be frequently filled and emptied to dissolve out any free salts before being put to use. The bottom must be composed of coarse river sand and small pebbles, the whole well washed before being introduced to the tank. Mr. Goss condemns red sand and silver sand as a certain stain as certain to stain the water, but I have two tanks now at work, both bottomed with such material, and the water preserves a crystalline brightness. I have also a marine tank in which the bed is formed of common silver sand and garden pebbles. It has been in use 9 months and with no unfavorable results. In each case, the sand was washed till the water could be poured away quite clear, and no matter what kind be used, the washing must be attended to. The coarser the grit, the better its appearance, and therefore I do not recommend common sand. I merely show that it can be used when better is not attainable. Mold has been extensively recommended as a bottom for tanks. I used it myself till I became convinced that it could be dispensed with altogether, and necessitates frequent changing of the water for at least a fortnight after the first stocking of the tank, in order to get rid of the soluble vegetable matter which the water dissolves out of it, and its presence promotes the growth of confervae and other low forms of aquatic vegetation that become obnoxious to the sight and even hurtful to the health of the collection. Now use sand and pebbles only, and I find that aquatic plants of all kinds root freely and flourish in it. And indeed, if pebbles only be used, they flourish just as well if their roots are covered. Now I'm seeing this and I go, what are these words? What is mold? I have no idea what's being talked about in this section. Mold has been extensively recommended as a bottom for tanks. What does that mean? And then it goes on to say that In order to get rid of the soluble vegetable matter, what do y'all think that mold is? It could be mold. It says here it necessitates frequent changing of the water for at least a fortnight after the first stocking of the tank, in order to get rid of the soluble vegetable matter which the water dissolves out of it. And its presence promotes the growth of, which is algae, this word is algae, and other low forms of aquatic vegetation that become noxious to the site and even hurtful to the to the health of the collection. It's mold. It is the only thing that will get rid of the solid vegetable matter. Mold has been extensively recommended as a bottom for tanks. I'm not sure, but it could be mold or real mold. They're talking about the symbiotic relationship between roots, mold, and undigested plant matter. So yes, mold technically. I have no idea. It sounds right. Planting is next to be performed. The arrangement of plants will depend on the shape and size of the vessel. Generally speaking, massive plants look best if set back with lighter plants before them. Just as the painter paints his chestnuts and elms in mid distance, and his lady birches in the foreground, stratoges, patamogen, and other plants of a massive and decided character are all well seen through the intricacies of the myriophyllums, calricea, and such like fragile and delicate structures. The flowering rush makes a fine centerpiece for a vase and appears to good advantage when seen through an archway in a tank containing rockwork. If there is a bed of 2 or 3 inches of sand, the roots may be gently pressed down into it, and a few clean pebbles laid over the spot to keep the plant in its position. Some plants will require a stone to be attached to them by means of a thread to fix them properly. Crowns of stratodes that have not formed roots may be planted in this way. First, cut away any black or decaying matter from the stem and pull off any discolored leaves, taking care not to injure the center. Then pass a piece of bass round the base and attach a small stone. The plant will remain firmly where placed and will throw out roots and fix itself before the rotting of the base takes place. It will then throw up new crowns and become a very ornamental object. Loose stems of Chara, Antrus, Als in Astrum, or Cal Ritchie may be gathered together, fixed by means of a stone in the same way, a strip of bass being better than a string for attaching them. They will generally get well rooted in a fortnight and remain firmly where planted. The water should be pure and bright when introduced to the tank, and if the supply is at all faulty, it will be best to pass it through a filter before using it. Spring water will do very well, but it must stand a day or two to allow the plants to soften it before the fishes are put in. My tanks are all filled up with spring water, which I find altogether unobjectable. But for the marine tank, I think it preferable to any other in the manufacture of artificial seawater. Writers on the aquarium usually insist on the use of river water, but in many cases this is not attainable, and it is satisfactory to know that artisan or well water will serve the purpose admirably. In filling the tank, hold a plate in the left hand as low down as possible to retrieve the dash of water from the vessel in the right, so as to wash up the sand as little as possible. A siphon may be used if a source of supply is near the position of the tank. Aspect. Sunshine is good for the tank at all seasons of the year, but in high summer it should only have an hour's sun, morning and evening. The fierce solar heat of midday will give the water so high a temperature as to be fatal to its animal inhabitants. Comparing tanks one with another, I must give a preference to a south or east aspect. A north aspect will do very well from May to October, but during the winter months, a tank in such a position would be feeble and want watching. Good exposure to daylight is, of course, essential, but it should be borne in mind that the freshwater tank needs more light than a marine one. My freshwater tanks I find to prosper best when placed close to the windows, but marine tanks may be kept back 2 or 3 feet in a south aspect. In fact, if you have a cabinet of water insects in a series of jars, the marine tank may very well stand behind them and get significant light there, but the light should fall uninterruptedly on the freshwater vessels. I want some of this bright water. The water should be pure and bright. Who wrote this thing? This is actually Shirley Hibbard from 1856. Brightwater, isn't that a place on the Fallout 3 map? I think so, actually. I was thinking about how many Brightwater aquatics channels there are. Probably quite a few. How did you find this? I found this while searching Project Gutenberg. I was just looking at aquarium like um, books. I did link it if y'all want to read it on your own, because I know that I butcher half of these words, and the other half I butcher is because of the book itself. So the next chapter is called Plants for the Aquarium. Then we got Fishes for the Aquarium. Then it goes on to reptiles, mollusks, and insects. And then selection of stock. And then general management. It then talks about marine tanks and the water cabinet. It's such a strange little book. I did find this other book. I was grabbing the link. It's called Tropical Fish Handbook, Goldfish and 31 Popular Tropicals. It is from this is the 10th edition from 1953, copyright 1945 by Gunther L. Scott. This is a little quote that says, "Twice happy is the man who has a hobby. He has two worlds to live in." I think that I'd like to go through this one after. Um, I've wanted to try and find her earlier book. All right, can y'all see this? This is Rustic Adornments for Homes of Taste by Shirley Hibbert. This is her first book. I'd like to just flip through this with y'all. The Freshwater Aquarium. Good night, Mike. These engravings, they're colored engravings, so these weren't drawn directly into the books. They were engraved on a plate and pressed in, and the inks were transferred over from the engraving plate. Very Victorian. I won't bore y'all with all of this. Skip around. The first book. As you can see here. I think it's quite interesting to look back on these extremely old books. In the case of this one, from 1856. This book is approximately 170 years old. That means it is closer to being 200 years old. And we can see, well, some of the things are obviously odd, but we can see things in here like the bottom composed of coarse river sand and small pebbles. The whole well washed before being introduced into the tank. We still use sand and pebbles in our aquariums. She even talks here about how she's talking about Mr. Goss condemns red sand as certain to stain the water. But she has two tanks now with these materials as her substrate, and the water is crystal clear. And there is some stuff like the mold thing that we looked at. I still have no idea what that means. But it's something that she tried, didn't like anymore. See, here in the planting section, if you remember, she's talking about aquascaping. Their arrangements of plants will depend on the shape and size of the vessel. Generally speaking, massive plants look best if set back with lighter plants before them. So basically, what she's saying here is that big plants need to go into the back of the tank, and smaller plants need to go in front of them. I mean, these are the same basic concepts that we still use almost 200 years later. I mean, right here where she says, in filling the tank, hold the plate in the left hand, low down as possible, receive the dash of water from the vessel in the right, as to wash up the sand as little as possible. She's basically giving you a tip here that's telling you how to not disturb your sand or your substrate while you're pouring in water. I mean, and this is a basic concept now where we see it all the time, but if somebody didn't know that, this is useful information still almost 200 years later. And yeah, we might not need to know where to place our tanks closest to the sun, but this is really good information regardless, because even though we have lights, we might want to know that putting our tank, what was it? So the north aspect will do very well from May to October, which means a north facing window will do very well from May to October, but it will be darker during the winter months. I think that there is so much valuable information that we can get out of these books still, even with this one 200 years later. And yeah, the pictures here are absolutely beautiful. Some of them are a little bit weird, and there's obvious things in these books that we would never do. But looking at stuff like this reminds us exactly where our hobby started. And reading this book with y'all, I have realized quite a few things, right? But the most important one is that there are some things that never change. And that might be the disagreements we're seeing this woman talking about in her book with other people, or the techniques of keeping fish, right? It's a lot of it that isn't technology based hasn't changed much at all. So I want to know, um, there are a total of 8 chapters in the freshwater tank section, and we just finished the third. We have plants for the aquarium, fishes for the aquarium, reptiles, mollusks, and insects, selection of stocks, and general management. Um, I think that we can skip the marine, maybe do some of the water cabinet, uh, even if it's just chapter one, distinctions between the cabinet and the aquarium, construction of the cabinet, glasses, and then we'll um, see if we want to continue here, because it's not super fish related, it's more amphibian related. We can probably do plants for the aquarium and fishes for the aquarium next week, and decide on reptiles, mollusks, and insects, and selection and stock. And then we'll do general management. And then after that, I'd like to skip 100 years into the future to the Tropical Fish Handbook, Goldfish, and 31 Popular Tropicals. And I'll see I'll see if I can't find any more of these around 200-year-old books, because I think these ones are the most interesting, and they're always going to be copyright free. I did look out for the 1953 book on Project Gutenberg, because anything on Project Gutenberg is free of copyright. Also, I'm looking for some physical copies of these older books, because it would be fun to physically have these books, right? Well, I love Project Gutenberg and similar websites like archive.org. I really want to contribute to them more than I want to use them, if you understand. So a huge part of why I'm collecting these books is to share them with you, and also keep them safe, right? Um, a digital log of these books just existing is amazing. And I'd like to keep them safe in my collection, to then eventually make their way out into the world again for people who want them. What really inspired me is that going to the library, there was no like informational books about fish and keeping fish that weren't directly tied to children, or being for children, or having extremely wrong information, because it's for children to put their little goldfish in the bowl and then their fish dies. That's what the books that I was finding were all about, and I wasn't interested in that. I'm interested in these, right? So that's basically what inspired me to do this. I want everybody to understand that these books exist. I want to share them with people and whatnot. But after this live stream gets shut down, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put up about 15-ish minutes after, probably way closer than that. Hold on. What I'll do is I'm going to grab this. Excuse me. Excuse me. Okay. So, I just posted my next stream in the chat. I also want to highlight this. So the second link that I posted is the link to my Sunday stream, where about 15-16 minutes in, I start talking about some misinformation that's been going on in our general community about plant fertilizers and basically how plants work, and that you don't have to use fertilizers, but they aren't by any means something that is not worth your money if you want to use them. And certainly not something that is touted as bad because it's based on terrestrial plant science. In that live stream, I do go through several scientific articles, and we look at some abstracts to the research papers on the subjects that we were talking about. And like always, I'm not how do you call it, super elegant. I'm mostly just kind of talking to myself the whole stream about these things. So I highly recommend, especially if you like plants, to go check out my Sunday live stream. I am doing a new stream thing where every morning, either before I go to bed or when I wake up, I will stream my fish tank, and it's my 20-gallon long Wadaka tank. And really, so I noticed a lot that there was nowhere like super late night or early morning or pretty much any time in the morning that a lot of people were streaming. So I don't. Excuse me. In my channel, right, in my long form videos, I started out by doing these um, long form videos, which were like anywhere between like 30 minutes and 1 hour long, where it was just, you would see my fish tank and you would just listen to some lo-fi music. And it was just kind of like to keep up in the background. You could see like little fish swimming around, just relax, do what you want. So I stopped making those videos because they were really hard for me to keep an hour's worth of video on my phone and then edit with music and then keep the video. And then if I deleted the video off of my phone while I had the video that I was editing, I would then lose that video. So I took the same concept for the people that like these kinds of videos where you just kind of hang out and like listen to the music and watch the fish be fish. And with the added benefit of there's a live chat where you can talk to people who are also there, right? So that's really why I like this style of video. I see it done in different hobbies and just like with whatnot. Um, it's very popular. So I figured like, well, why didn't I do it? There's not a lot of people that stream in the morning, and yeah, it's been a little weird, and I might have accidentally streamed over people before. Um, but I was probably sleeping. My fault. I think today I was awake all morning until like 10 o'clock, and then I took a nap for 2 hours. And I woke up and I had to turn the stream off. So, excuse me. I like checking the chat and seeing everybody talk to each other or um, say good morning and just kind of hang out. So, let me check that out. I find this interesting too. Cool, there'll be these. I'll be there. These books are kind of interesting. I find this interesting too. Thanks for the book link. What fish do you keep, Cece? I keep Madakas, Tetras, Gambusia, and the small live bearer that is called least killifish. Guppies, coolie loaches, snails, shrimp. Oops. My favorite way to do a live by yourself, it's very difficult. It's the format of a lot I have done. Yeah. I'm very much the type of person that likes to talk to other people, or like I have to be doing something. And like I can talk. I can talk to myself a lot, but like there's a point where like it gets difficult, I guess. So what I'm going to do. Let's see. We have two in common. One's Lucas too. Cooliloches are awesome. They're just funny noodles. I wonder what they think. I don't know if there's much thoughts in a Cooliloch's head. But I do know that my Cooliloches are named after Japanese noodles. So I just go in and, I mean, they're Cooliloches, so they all look the same. So, like, one is udon, right? And there's another one named ramen. Those are just examples, but, or like soba. I'd be like, hi, soba. And then, like, yesterday it was ramen, like, I have no idea which one's which. They just get a random name assigned to them when I look at them. And then, yeah. Here's the link to the next live. What I'm going to do is I just have to go fix my camera, but I'm going to go fix my camera and then go live. So I'll be live again for my Medaka in the morning stream. If you want to go hang out over there and talk amongst yourselves and watch the little Medaka. And that's where I'll be for a while. I'll be checking comments until I fall asleep. And then when I wake up, I'll tell y'all good morning. And then a little bit after that, I'll go. All right. We'll see you in the next one. Bye.